Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1004, Saturday, January the 4th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Got to get used to saying 2020 and writing it on my checks. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the news of the last couple of days. And of course, the biggest news story, of course, as everyone knows, is President Trump ordering the drone strike on the Iranian military leader, probably we are told the number 2 probably military leader in Iran. And of course, along with him in the vehicle was a driver and this third person, which was the leader of the Iranian-backed Shiite militia, which operates in northern Iraq. Good. Well done, Mr. President. In fact, I have to say, the last 3 or 4 days, the way that Trump responded to the situation that was going on with our embassy, in contrast to what was done by the rotten Reverend Clinton in Benghazi under Obama, and you look at the two responses, they're night and day. Trump did it right, and the Obama administration and the rotten Reverend did it wrong, which is why they're still trying to cover up the crimes that were involved in the Benghazi fiasco. Trump was not going to allow another Benghazi, and he took excellent measures. Pompeo did a good job. His military people, even the intelligence community, did a damn good job of identifying Suleiman, I guess, however you pronounce his name, this Iranian military leader. They did a very good job of getting the intelligence, knowing this guy was landing at the airport. They literally, and I'm not sure if they were actually in the vehicle at that time or not. It's still kind of sketchy. It sounds like that he had just gotten off the plane and was approaching the vehicle, and it was the driver and this Shiite Muslim leader from northern Iraq that were greeting him, and it appears that the strike happened right there. But there's other reports saying that they were actually moving in the vehicle. So I don't know. It doesn't even matter. The fact is, all 3 of them were killed, obviously, by a drone strike. And I have no problem with this. I mean, he's a high-value target. He's responsible for a lot of American deaths, as well as deaths of, including Muslims in Iraq and other places in the region. When you have a high-value target like that, and you've got him in a place where you're legally authorized, and yes, Trump was legally authorized to do that drone strike, you have to take the shot. I mean, if he's in Iran, it's much tougher, much stickier situation to hit him in Iran. But if you can get him in Iraq or somewhere outside of Iran, and you can get a positive ID on him, you know he's there, and you can take him out, especially in light of what's gone on in the past few days, and especially if you have intelligence that's telling you that he's probably in Iraq for a reason, and that's to cook up some more bad news for Iraq and us and anyone who would be opposed to the activities of Iran in the region, which we all know the Iranians are involved in a lot of bad mojo over in the Middle East. They are the leaders of the Shiite Muslim world in Iran, and that gives them access to quite a few different countries, and they're constantly stirring the pot. So again, I mean, I think it was an excellent decision by Trump. If it would have been my call, I would have done the same thing. Of course, you can predict, what the response of the radical leftists out in Hollywood, the demo commies, even the ones running for president. And this is going to come back and bite them in the ass, of course, because you just sound anti-American and unpatriotic when you come out against the president when he legally authorizes a justified hit on a high-value target. And even many Democrats are going to sit back and look at this and say, wait a minute, this was a pretty bad guy. The president was legally authorized to do it. And the anti-Americanism and the unpatriotic crap that comes out of the mouths of the Hollywood leftist, the left-wing Democrats, the progressives, and the whole group. Americans across the country are not quite that stupid. Even Democrats or independents, people who don't even pay that close of attention to politics, there's a certain core in your gut sort of knowledge that we all possess. And the average American who maybe doesn't tune in too close to politics or anything is going to see what Trump did and say, okay, well, I mean, it was probably, when you get the information and you find out what this guy was up to, what this guy has been up to, what he's been involved in, he's a high value target, he's on the terrorist watch list, the whole 9 yards, bad guy, we had every right to hit him, and Trump made the call, they carried it out, they did a magnificent job, it went down great, no Americans were killed, no Iraqis were killed, only guys that were killed were the 3 bad guys that were involved. And coming on the heels of what had just happened a week ago at our embassy, it was, I think most people feel pretty good about it and have no problem with it. So when they see the leftists come out and say the things they're saying, it just comes off very unpatriotic. And I think that, again, this is just another little thing that's going to stick into the craw of many Americans. And come Election Day in 2020, it will just be another one of the many, many reasons why Trump wins in an overwhelming fashion in the Electoral College in 2020. And one thing that always bothers me, just like the kids in cages thing that popped up during the immigration battle, you notice the Democrats said nothing when Barack Hussein Obama drone striked Alawaki and his teenage son. And they were American citizens. Or at least his son certainly was, and I do believe Alawaki was as well. Totally, you heard nothing from the left wing. Obama executed drone strikes all over the world, quite honestly, in Lebanon and various other places where we weren't even authorized. Obama actually did unauthorized, illegal drone strikes on people. Signed off on drone strikes every day, admitted to it, and made jokes about it. Not a peep out of the left-wing radicals, which just goes to show that this is not any principle that they have. It's just more Trump derangement syndrome. And while it may get them a bunch of retweets and may make them feel good at the next Hollywood party that they go to, it may even get them a shot in a movie role in a movie because they're on the team. Ultimately, the long-term prognosis for this is not good for them or their careers, and it's certainly just again, it's just another one of those things that will stick into the craw of the average American and will be another reason, as I said, why Trump wins in overwhelming fashion in 2020. The despicable demo commies seem to make the worst decisions that I've ever seen. And again, I think that the only explanation I can have for this is that they live in an echo chamber, in a bubble, in some place either on the East Coast or West Coast, where everyone around them thinks like them, acts like them, talks like them, and they really are just kind of in a groupthink sort of mentality, and they don't really understand that between the two coasts there's a very large swath of country where real Americans live, and they can be Democrats, they can be independents, they can be Republicans, but when you get into things like foreign policy, wars, these type of operations, it generally goes outside the political, and it goes more into common sense and just what the average person thinks. So I imagine you could go talk to Democrats in Iowa, Democrats in Montana, Democrats in Nebraska, Democrats in Ohio, Democrats in various places in between the coasts, and I bet you'd find a totally different response from those Democrats. They'd probably look at the situation, and once they were made aware of what Sullivan and this other guy were involved in, and the fact that Trump was authorized to carry it out, I think that most people, given the correct information, would say, okay, well, I have to think the president did the right thing. And I believe that that would come out of the mouths of Democrats living in the area, what they describe in the coast as flyover country. We're the ones who are going to decide the next election, my friends. And again, this is going to just be another thing that, as I said, will stick in the craw of many Americans across the country, and it will end up helping Trump in 2020. And again, the Democratic nominees, or the Democratic candidates for, or the candidates Democrats run right now for the Democratic nomination, I've already heard from 3 or 4 of them today, and they're coming out and hitting Trump. And I'm thinking how stupid these people have to be based on where they are. Maybe they think that Democrats in a lot of these early primary states think like them, but I don't know. I mean, go talk to some South Carolina Democrats. I don't know if they're on board with this or not. We're about to find out. But either way, it's just more Trump derangement syndrome, and it's despicable, the anti-Americanism and things that you hear coming out of the left wing. But I think this is something that we've become kind of used to at this point. I'm hoping it's just a brief thing in our history, and that once Trump gets reelected in 2020, maybe the left will have a come to Jesus moment, and they will rethink all that they've been doing and saying and how they've been acting, and maybe some of them will grow up, and this will all be hopefully past history for us a couple years down the road, and it'll all go away. But it probably won't. It will probably be around as long as Trump is, and hopefully Don Jr. will be elected in 2024, so they can have 8 more years. And then after that, how about Ivanka? Or Eric Trump? Or Lara Trump? Take your pick. So anyway, boy, would that be fun. So that's my thoughts on the strike. As far as any retaliation by the Iranians, I assume that they'll certainly try to retaliate in some way, but let's face it, it's Iran. We can take care of business with Iran. We can do whatever we need to do, and I think Trump will make the call if he has to. I know Trump will not get us into a boots-on-the-ground war in Iran. I'm not worried about that at all. He's not that stupid. He's not going to get suckered into a ground troops in Iran. That's not going to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Iranians keep up what they're doing, that Trump wouldn't hit those oil refineries. And probably the only reason that we haven't hit those oil refineries in Iran is because it would bring a lot of pain and suffering on the Iranian people. And I think that that's a consideration Trump has, is he wants to take out the regime, he wants to hit the regime, but he doesn't want to bring any more pain and suffering on the people of Iran. That won't necessarily bring them onto our side, because ultimately, when you're fighting to win a war, you're really fighting to win the peace. And you want to be able to win a war against the enemy without making the citizens of that country the enemy. So it's very, very tricky business, but I have full confidence, full trust in President Trump to make the right call. He'll make the best call he can make. Sometimes you don't have any good options, and you take the least bad option. And I trust that Trump will do an admirable job, and that he'll make us proud, and that he'll make the best call he can make. And so I'm going to leave it right there and move on to the next topic. Was there a FISA warrant on Rudy Giuliani? A lot of people are asking that question right now. Now we know the Horowitz report just came out, and the indications are from the Horowitz report that there was only a FISA on Carter Page. As most of you know, the day or two after the IG report came out, I said that I'm doubting that. I don't think Horowitz got all the information. I think that there were FISAs on other people. And I wasn't even thinking Giuliani. I was thinking more like Papadopoulos, only because Papadopoulos was told by 2 reporters. One ABC News reporter, Brian Ross, told him, hey, you got a FISA warrant on you. Did you know that? Of course, we know that Papadopoulos says in his book that he's sitting in a restaurant with a friend, and his friend is telling him that the FBI had just paid him a visit, and they were showing pictures. Papadopoulos is showing pictures to my friend of me. Pictures that they have been taking of Papadopoulos. So clearly, he was under some kind of a intrusive investigation or search warrant of some sort. Maybe it wasn't a full FISA, but he certainly had some kind of warrants on him for investigative purposes. But I believe he probably had a FISA on him. So I don't think we've gotten all the truth about who all had FISAs on them. I almost was sure that Manafort would have had a FISA on him. And I suspected that Jared Kushner may have had a FISA on him as well. And so I don't think we've actually gotten to the bottom of everyone who had FISAs on them. And I'll be looking forward to Mr. Durham's investigation when it is finally wrapped up. I think we'll find out that there probably were other FISAs out there. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It certainly, the evidence seems to suggest that there were. But in this issue of Giuliani, the reason that we're now suspicious that there may have been a FISA on Giuliani is because the Southern District of New York, in their court filings in regards to these 3 or 4 Ukrainian businessmen that Giuliani was working with, getting information from, the ones who recently were indicted in a court filing, the Southern District of New York said basically in their court filing that it is not their intention to use information they gained in their investigation that may or may not have come from FISA warrants, that they're not going to planning on using this information. So they're essentially saying, yeah, well, we may or may not have had a FISA warrant on these guys. And of course we know that Giuliani is under that investigation, as well as another, what we're told is a counterintelligence investigation. And so it's very possible we could find out that even Giuliani had a FISA on him, and maybe still does. Speaking of Papadopoulos, his most recent video, which I just watched a little while ago, you might want to watch. It's episode 3. He actually goes into great detail about the setup involving this Mr. Tawil giving him $10,000 over in Israel. And of course, I did a deep dive on Tawil, and we of course have identified him as an intelligence asset. I don't know if he's Israeli or U.S. or British, but he is certainly in the intelligence business. Who he's actually working for, probably multiple intelligence agencies, I would guess. But what's interesting and what Papadopoulos points out in his video is that we now know that the very day after Tawil gives Papadopoulos the $10,000 in cash, the day after, Andrew Weissman begins a process that you go through when you're investigating money laundering, fraud, embezzlement conducted in foreign countries. And the investigation, and this type of investigation that Weissman was getting involved in, was he was doing things that you do when you're working with a foreign government to try to crack a case of someone who's involved in money laundering, embezzling, and that type of thing. And of course, all this went down with Papadopoulos and Mr. Tawil around Cyprus. And of course, Cyprus is a place where a lot of money laundering is done. There's a lot of intelligence people around there from various countries, including Russia, the U.S., Britain, France, various countries, Israel, all have a lot of assets, intelligence assets, and a lot of things are done in Cyprus, money laundering, things and such. And so the day after Papadopoulos gets the 10 grand, Weissman specifically contacts the government in Cyprus to get them to help him with some case that he is working on involving possible FARA violations, money laundering, embezzlement, that type of thing. And so and then Papadopoulos, and this happens during that week of, so Papadopoulos is given the 10 grand. The next day, there's about a week-long series of contacts between Weissman and the officials in the government of Cyprus about money laundering, FARA violations, and some target that they are looking at. And then when Papadopoulos, of course, comes back, he goes from Cyprus and he goes back to Greece. He gets to Greece, he gives the money to his lawyer, he comes back to the States. Of course, they are there waiting for him at the airport, expecting he'll have the money on him. He does not, so they have to make up a crime to arrest him, and we know the rest of the story from there. But what this does is it draws into serious question Remember, this is all happening during the Mueller investigation. So what this says is that Andrew Weissman was clearly running a frame-up operation, working with this Mr. Tawil on Papadopoulos. They were trying to frame Papadopoulos in a corrupt money scheme and using Mr. Tawil the exact same way that they used Downer and Halper on him. So they obviously targeted Papadopoulos, thinking, this guy's 29 years old, he don't know what the hell's going on, we can really play this guy. And so they tried to play him with Misfit, Halper, and Downer. And then, of course, when that fell through, they tried to play him with Mr. Tawil, who's obviously an intelligence asset. And so at some point in his investigation, Durham has got to be looking at this and thinking, wait a minute, I've got the Mueller team trying to run a frame-up operation on Papadopoulos. That ties the Mueller team to the coup, and specifically Andrew Weisass. So Papadopoulos also infers in his video that that money, that $10,000, is now in the possession of Durham or someone within the investigation, and they're probably looking at tracking where that money came from. And this would be very important to me because I don't think that Mueller and Andrew Weissman and the Hillary donor posse should get off the hook. They were part of the coup. They were the coup. When everything else failed, it was the Mueller investigation that was supposed to drive Trump from office. That's exactly what the whole thing was about. It had nothing to do with Trump-Russia. It was about creating an environment where Trump would attempt to fight back, and in doing so, he could be charged with obstruction, and therefore that information, even though it wouldn't allow Mueller and his team to actually get Trump and a Trump-Russia collusion, it would provide them with enough evidence in the report that could be turned over to Congress. Then they can go through the report and see the inferences to obstruction of justice so that they could use that to get an impeachment to drive Trump from office that way. This is part of a much larger plot, and it's all being hatched, organized, and coordinated with this lawfare group and with the Democrats in Congress. And that's one thing, because that's all a bunch of political stuff. But when that finds its way into a special counsel investigation, where you have the actual people working for the special counsel coordinating with a political party and a group of lawyers working with the political party for the set purpose of instigating a coup, now you have a big problem. And I will be very disappointed if Durham does not bring charges against Andrew Weisass, the Hillary donor posse, and even Uncle Bob himself. He was part of the coup, a major part of the coup. So was Andrew Weissman. Andrew Weissman was coordinating with these corrupt DOJ officials back in 2016. Andrew Weissman was shown the dossier, apparently even before Brennan and Comey. Mr. Durham needs to dig very deep into the Mueller probe. I certainly hope he will, because he will find a lot there. Well, we have that idiot Michael Bloomberg. He's trying to do everything he can to make sure that he's unelectable. And that's good. Because now we have Bloomberg saying, quote, "We just can't let average Americans have guns." Just can't let average Americans have guns. Who the are you, Mr. Bloomberg, to tell me, as an average American, I can't have a gun? Who the hell are you? He's got private security, and they're all carrying guns, I can assure you. Good enough for him, but not for you and I. That's the reason why this guy has zero chance. And you can add Liawatha into that equation as well, because she couldn't resist coming out saying that she does not support concealed carry. That's okay, I open carry. But I could conceal carry. I'd just soon put it up on the dash, or strap it onto my thigh holster, or my harness holster. I don't care. We've tons of open carriers around here. In fact, I can walk out my door and jog about a quarter mile up the road to the little carryout, and the guy that works at the little drive-through carryout there, he's always packing. He's got one on his hip every day. Nobody robs his carryout. Anyway, yes, there you go. The anti-gunners, how they expect that they're going to win the Electoral College by coming out with statements like that is just, I mean, I don't. I'm starting to believe that that these demo commies realize that they can't win in 2020, and so they're just going to try to, I don't know, raise as much money as they can by playing to the far left-wing base. Because remember, in most of these campaigns in most states, the money that you raise is your money. It could be all about the money. It certainly can't be about winning the election, because they have to know that you can't win in the Midwest, in the South, in the Central Plains, in the Southwest, running on these issues. And when you say, we can't let average Americans have guns, well, fortunately, we're above average Americans, Mr. Bloomberg, here in the Midwest. We're above average. That's why we strap them on, conceal or open carry. We don't give a damn. Well, if you live out in California, again, as I've said, I know we do have quite a few subscribers out in California. I feel sorry for you. I know it's your home. I know many of you probably lived there all your life. Your friends, your family, your lives are there. You don't want to leave. But I don't know how much longer, as a Californian, you can continue to live in that state based on the laws that they continue to pass, which are so anti-liberty that it's just, I can imagine this. I live in a different world. I mean, here in Southern Ohio, the things that we see coming out of California would not even be taken seriously in the state of Ohio. And it's pretty liberal up in the northern part of the state, but in the southern part of the state, it's very conservative. This stuff you would never even hear this talk. And even Democrats wouldn't even suggest this kind of stuff in Ohio. Even the Democrats are not this far gone. But we now have the governor just signing into law a new law which says that you can only use, each resident in the state of California is only allowed to use 55 gallons of water per day, per household, per person in the household. So if you're a single person in California, you're only allowed to use 55 gallons of water a day. If you have two people in the household, you're allowed 110 gallons, and on and on. But keep in mind, it takes about 50 gallons to do a load of wash. It takes about another 10 to 15, 20 gallons to run your dishwasher. If you take a shower every day, the average person uses about 20 to 30 gallons taking a shower. So what this effectively means is that in the state of California, you probably will no longer be able to take a shower and do a load of laundry in the same day. You certainly can't water your lawn. You can't fill up your swimming pool. You can't wash your car. You can't clean your house. You can't use your garden hose to go out and clean your lawnmowers and your motorcycles and your four-wheelers. I mean, you simply are now so limited on how much water you can use that I don't know how you can live like that. I'm single, and I'm sure I use probably, on average, I probably use more than 55 gallons a day on average. Some days I may only use 30 or 40 gallons, but some days I probably use 80 to 100. Now, if you break this law and you use more than 55 gallons of water in a day, it is a $1,000 fine. $1,000 fine. And if you do it 2 days, it's $2,000. If you run over for 3 days, it's $3,000. They keep adding up the days that you went over your 55-gallon limit. So I wonder how long and how much more, how long this is going to continue in the state of California, how much longer. There's already 2 recall petitions in California for Newsom. As you know, I predicted before the election that Newsom would probably win, but I also said that I believe that he will probably face recall before his 6 years are up. And of course, there's 2 recall petitions there now. I said if he tries to do the things he talked about, he'll probably be recalled. And I don't know what it's going to be that finally pushes people in California to the point where they finally say, that's it. We just can't do it anymore. And right now you have two choices. The state's run totally by left-wingers. You can either stay there and put up with it, or you can leave. And we know that California, in fact, they're going to lose some congressional seats because they're losing population. New York, California, some of these blue states, New Jersey, people are fleeing out of these states. They're leaving. But I got to wonder when Gavin Newsom is finally going to do the one thing that's finally is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and then you see those recall petitions just take off like a rocket. Now there's a time limit. I think they have until February. You only have a certain amount of time to get those signatures. So I'll be interested to see if this law here does anything to really ignite one of those two petitions that are going out there, and if by February they actually get the number of signatures they need and have a recall election. I think it's going to be very close, but when you hear this kind of insanity, it's just hard to imagine how people can continue to live in California under this type of tyranny, lack of liberty, whatever you want to call it. Yes, we had Pompeo going on Fox News and literally telling Fox News that the Obama administration is undermining Trump foreign policy in Iran, and he actually described being with Trump's foreign policy team over at the UN discussing foreign policy, and he said literally the former Obama team, Kerry and the other people on that team, were cajoling with the Iranian crew, the people from Iran, and that he said, Pompeo says that Kerry and that crew that put together the Obama-Iran deal were telling the Iranians to just hang in there and not capitulate because Trump was going to be driven out of office either through impeachment or he would lose in 2020, and then they could go back to appeasing Iran. I mean, I've never seen this before, where a previous administration foreign policy team is actively at the exact same time officially, when the new administration is conducting foreign policy, they're simultaneously trying to, upstage or interfere in that foreign policy. I've never seen this happen before, and I don't know why that the Trump administration hasn't sent the guys in the men in black out to visit Kerry and his team to tell them that if you do it again, we're going to throw your ass in jail or charge you with violations, because it is a crime to do what they're doing. It's actually a crime. Josh Hawley is saying that he's going to introduce a motion on Monday to dismiss the impeachment. We will see if McConnell even lets that come to a vote. I'm thinking he won't. And finally, this issue, someone asked me to comment on the judge in the Hunter Biden case recusing himself. So I'm not 100% up on that story, but I'm aware of what's going on there. So the judge in the Hunter Biden case has recused himself, and it apparently is a result of a couple things happening. First of all, we had this private investigative agency that filed something with the court about Hunter Biden not cooperating in their investigation, where they said they have evidence that he's involved in money laundering and various other things, and they're not cooperating. He introduced this into the case, but in the state of Arkansas, before you can introduce something like that, you have to actually file a motion to intervene. They did not, so the judge kicked it out because there was no motion to intervene. So the judge kicked out that first thing. Then the private investigative firm came back and refiled, and this has caused the judge to recuse himself. And everyone's wondering what's going on here, and I don't know. But we do know that judges can't just recuse themselves. There has to be a reason. Either it's health issues, they have a conflict of interest, or something else. And I really don't know what else that would be, but certainly a lot of people are watching to see what happens. But once a judge recuses himself, everything starts completely over. So the only thing that I can see for sure 100% that's happened as a result of this is that now the entire thing is going to be delayed. And who would benefit from all of this being delayed? I'll just leave you with that thought in mind. You can kick that around. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.